Field Report Number FA0011, Cycle 47. Subject Species Homo sapiens. Observation: individuals fabricate a secondary, non-biological persona within illuminated rectangles, selectively documenting nutrient intake, dermal presentation, and affective states at statistically elevated quality. Baseline conditions, fatigue, disorder, unremarkable meals, are systematically excluded. The construct appears maintained through repetitive image capture, filtration, and peer signaling loops. I detect a ritual function, accumulation of symbolic approval units to stabilize self-concept. Paradox noted: energy is expended to simulate ease, and authenticity is pursued via coordinated inauthenticity. Unclear why the organism requires a parallel self that eats better than the primary. Field observations indicate that human subjects repeatedly capture and disseminate visual records of meals that are aesthetically optimized, often involving vibrant colors, geometric arrangement, and rare ingredients, while systematically omitting their frequent consumption of simpler sustenance. This behavior suggests a bifurcation between biological intake and representational intake, wherein the digital persona appears to consume exclusively desirable items. Central Command requested clarification on whether this reflects actual dietary patterns. Evidence suggests it does not. On our home world, consumption logs are valued for accuracy to maintain metabolic efficiency, yet humans appear to prioritize symbolic nourishment over biological truth. The resulting entity, a projected self that only ingests exceptional meals, functions as a signal of status, discipline, or aesthetic awareness, despite contradicting observable caloric routines. Subjects employ algorithmic alteration tools to smooth dermal surfaces, adjust proportions, and enhance lighting conditions before releasing images to their networks. This produces a version of the human form that exhibits reduced entropy compared to baseline observation. Notably, these alterations are widely understood by other humans, yet the practice persists, indicating a shared agreement to engage with optimized projections rather than raw data. Central Command hypothesized deception, but the evidence aligns more closely with ritualized enhancement. In contrast, our species broadcasts unfiltered sensory data to preserve informational integrity, making this human tendency toward distortion perplexing. The curated body becomes a stabilized artifact, less susceptible to temporal decay, allowing the projected self to exist in a prolonged state of visual acceptability. Recorded transmissions show a strong bias toward events categorized as celebrations, achievements, or leisure satisfaction, while periods of distress, monotony, or inactivity are largely absent. This results in an aggregate persona that experiences near constant positive affect. Central Command questioned whether this indicates superior emotional regulation among humans. However, longitudinal observation contradicts this assumption. Instead, the omission of negative states appears intentional, constructing a narrative of sustained well-being. On our planet, emotional logs are maintained in full spectrum to ensure accurate psychological calibration, making this selective reporting inefficient from a diagnostic standpoint. The human digital self thus operates as an emotional highlight reel, compressing complex lived experience into a sequence of favorable states. Subjects frequently review their own projected images alongside those of others, generating comparative assessments that inform subsequent actions, including consumption choices, physical presentation, and activity selection. This indicates that the curated identity is not merely expressive, but also prescriptive. Central Command identified this as a potential self-conditioning mechanism, wherein the digital construct exerts influence over the biological original. This recursive loop is notable, as it suggests the secondary self is gradually shaping the primary organism's decisions. In our society, identity constructs are static records, rather than dynamic feedback systems, preventing such loops. Humans, however, appear to willingly submit to this iterative process, adjusting their lived behavior to better align with their projected persona. Each digital projection is accompanied by metrics such as approval indicators, comments, and distribution counts, which humans monitor with significant attention. These numerical signals appear to function as a form of social currency, translating abstract approval into countable units. Central Command expressed concern regarding the reliance on such simplified metrics to evaluate complex identity constructs. Nevertheless, humans consistently interpret higher values as confirmation of desirability or correctness. This creates a reinforcement system in which certain types of projections are favored and replicated. On our world, validation is conducted through multidimensional consensus matrices that resist reduction to single values, making the human approach seem reductive. The curated self is thus continuously optimized to maximize these signals, further distancing it from the variability of the biological individual.